Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, I think that deep down inside, everyone has the desire to have
$1 million.
a million buckaroos because it's a number that represents success in financial freedom. To some extent, we all want to make $1 million. However, getting there is something that very few people can do. However, something that I have noticed with successful people is that no matter what path they choose, whether that's Bill Gates starting Microsoft or Mr. Beast starting YouTube channel, is that they all have one thing in common. The thing that led them to their success was not just hard work, but a lot of it had to do with simply thinking outside the box. Everyone that has made large amounts of money did it by thinking outside the box, by doing something different, something that no one else had thought of before. And they believed in their idea so much that they had the courage to pursue it. And so in this video, I want to inspire you to think outside the box and share 7 of the craziest ways that people have made $1 million. And something that you're going to notice about every story is that they all have one thing in common. They simply thought outside the box. And so the first way is selling pixels. Now, 20 years ago, the internet was very different than it is today. There was dial-up connection. Most websites were just colorful bulletin boards, and Google was just a search engine. The internet was very different back then, and in the early stages of the internet, a 21-year-old guy named Alex Tu wanted to make $1 million. And so he started a website called the $1 Million Homepage. And his idea was very simple. He was going to create 1,000 times 1,000 pixel billboard consisting of 1 million pixels. And anybody could buy advertising space on his website or on his billboard. And all it would cost him was $1 a pixel. And once he sold every single pixel, he would have
$1 million.
In 4 months after the release of his website, every pixel was sold, and Alex too became a millionaire, and the $1 Million Homepage is still available to view today. Making an 1,000 times 1,000 pixel billboard is something that doesn't take a huge amount of hard work, but it simply takes thinking outside the box. And thinking outside the box is what made Alex too a millionaire. Now the next way is finding a loophole in Bitcoin. Now, I am sure that you know who this guy is, Sam Bankman-Fried. A year or so ago, his crypto trading platform, FTX, declared bankruptcy due to mismanaged funds, and many people lost their life savings. And he will be remembered by history as a villain. But before all that happened, before he got locked up for the rest of his life, Sam Bankman-Fried figured out a very easy, effortless way to make $1 million a day. Granted, most of us couldn't do this to the extent that he did, but at the time he noticed that the price of Bitcoin in the United States was $10,000 and the price in Japan was $11,000. It was sort of like this loophole that nobody noticed. And what he did was every day he would buy $10 million of Bitcoin in the American market and sell it in a Japanese market for $11 million, making $1 million profit every single time. He noticed something so simple, how to make money without putting that much effort in. And granted, it did take a lot of money and a lot of connections, but he made $1 million a day simply by thinking outside the box. And now he's in prison. Granted, that was probably what started his career as a con. Now, the third way is finding a loophole in the lottery. Now, the lottery is a game of chance. That is, unless you're extremely good at math and can find a loophole in the game, which is exactly what a man named Jerry Selby did. And what happened was the Michigan lottery created this new game called Windfall. And it was a very different game, where unlike the Powerball, where the prize keeps going up if no one hits the 6 numbers, in Windfall, if the prize reaches $5 million and nobody hits the 6 numbers, all the money rolls down to the lower tier prize winners of 5, 4, and 3 numbers with larger prizes. And because he was good at math, he quickly realized that whenever the prize reached its peak of $5 million and started to roll down to the lower prizes, if he bought $1,100 in tickets, mathematically, he would have one 4-number winning ticket for $1,000, and he'd have 18 3-number winning tickets totaling $900, turning an $800 profit. And maybe by chance, he'd win a little bit more, but mathematically, he would always turn a profit. And so he started to bet more and more, buy more and more tickets. And after 9 years of doing this, he made a total profit of $8 million. And what he did was perfectly legal, but the government eventually figured out that loophole and stopped the game. But he noticed something so simple, but only by thinking outside the box and being very good at math. Now, the fourth way is domain squatting. So as I said a second ago, the internet was very different 20 years ago than it is now. In this next story about making $1 million involves an advertising agency, a pizza, and a man named Chris Clark. Now this story takes 20 years to come into fruition, but it all began in 1994. Chris Clark owned an advertising agency and wanted to get a contract for a pizza firm. So Chris purchased the domain pizza.com, hoping he would get a new client. However, he never got the client's business, but he still decided to keep the domain. And every single year, he paid a $20 domain fee year after year after year. And there wasn't a master plan by this. He just kept paying the fee year after year and nothing happened. Until 2006, when Chris heard that the domain vodka.com was sold for $3 million. And when Chris heard this, he thought maybe pizza.com is worth something. So he listed his domain, pizza.com, on the domain selling website, sato.com, and in the first day he got a bid of $100. Not too bad, but a week later, the bidding got much higher, and in 2 weeks he sold his domain of pizza.com for $2.6 million. Chris didn't have this master plan to sell pizza.com 20 years later. He bought the website for one of his clients that he never got. But eventually, as he paid the domain fee year after year, he saw potential and he acted on it. And he did it simply by thinking outside the box. And he became a millionaire almost by accident. Now, the fifth way is saying Pewdiepie 100,000 times. If you watch a decent amount of YouTube, you probably heard about the world's biggest YouTuber, Mr. Beast. And his channel is crazy. I mean, he has 231 million subscribers. His average video has over 100 million views, and his videos are multi-million-dollar productions. And if you saw him for the first time, you might quickly come to the conclusion that he was born in wealth and he was handed everything in life. But you could not be further from the truth. You see, if you go back to his earliest videos, all he was doing was just Minecraft videos. And the videos weren't good, and he did that his first few years on YouTube. But his story is a story about what is possible in today's age, because eventually he started to do very obscure topics like reading the longest word in the English language or saying Pewdiepie 100,000 times. And those videos don't really cost anything to make, but they got an extreme amount of attention by the algorithm, equaling extremely high viewership, which equals more money and more sponsorships. In everything he made, as he started to make more money, he invested it back into the channel and started to make higher budget videos, like putting Orbeez in his friend's backyard, and challenge videos with bigger prizes. And as he got bigger and bigger, his videos got more and more expensive and eventually became multi-million-dollar productions, like his highest viewed video doing the Squid Game challenge with a prize of $456,000 with 500 million views. And I am not saying that is easy. As a YouTuber myself, I know how much work goes into making these videos. But he is living proof that in the age that we're living, in the internet age, a person can start from nothing, think outside the box, and make a name for themselves. The story of Mr. Beast is a story about what happens when someone thinks outside the box in today's day and age in all the possibilities in the modern world. Now, the sixth way is accidentally inventing a toy. Now, probably everyone that's watching this is familiar with the toy, the Slinky. It's a cool toy, but the story of the Slinky is much cooler because it's a story of thinking outside the box. Granted, nothing was easy, but the idea of the Slinky came much quicker than many other toy ideas. It came accidentally. The Slinky was made by accident by an inventor named Richard James in the 1940s. Richard wasn't trying to make a toy, but he was an inventor trying to make a spring for warships that could handle the vibrations of gunfire, propellers, and waves. And after so many prototypes, he made one spring that he thought would make a good toy because it moved down by gravity and it could walk down stairs. And eventually he shared this invention with his wife, and she saw the potential of this being a children's toy, and she came up with the name Slinky, meaning graceful and sinuous in movement, line, or figure. And eventually, Richard took out a loan of $500 or $7,500 in today's money and demonstrated his new toy in a department store in Philadelphia. And in 90 minutes, he sold his entire inventory of 400 Slinkies for $1 a piece. Then, by Christmas, he sold another 20,000 Slinkies. And 2 years later, he sold 100 million Slinkies for $1 a piece, totaling $100 million in sales, or $1.43 billion in today's money. And again, I'm not saying that that was easy, but his idea came pretty easily to him because instead of creating springs for warships, he created a children's toy. And he did it, just like the others I mentioned, by thinking outside the box. By not seeing failures, but instead seeing successes. Now, the final way is taking chances. So I want to leave you with this. In the history of the world, it has never been easier to make something of yourself because only just about 20 years ago, if you wanted to start a business, you had to have tons of money, tons of overhead, and take tons of risks. Starting a business was not realistic for the everyday person, but it was reserved for the privileged few of society. And the majority of people were stuck doing tough work, making little money. However, now the internet has democratized opportunity and you can start your own business with $0, thinking outside the box. And so what I'm trying to say is that a huge component of being successful in today's world simply requires thinking outside the box and taking chances. Hard work is a huge component of success, but another component is thinking outside the box, thinking about things that other people aren't thinking, and taking chances on your ideas, believing in yourself, betting on yourself. And so what I'm trying to say is don't be afraid to take chances because we're living in a world, in a time where it has never been easier to get success in life. And with that, muchas gracias. Que tengan un buen día. Nos vemos, chicos.